A timid counselor in 1840s uh, bureaucratic Russia is haunted by this person he perceives to be his exact double in every single way, yet he is, in many ways, the antithesis to him in both attitude and personality. Um, this is kind of the one sentence, my best attempt at a one sentence summary of The Double by Fyodor Dostoevsky. It is a mind boggling, something Nabokov called the perfect novel. Um, Even though he had an obvious, like, kind of almost like a symbolic falling out because, they're obviously different centuries. They passed away. They lived different timelines, obviously. Well, but The Double is, I think, it's published in 1846, and it was one of his first novels, along with Poor Folk, and it had a, I think it was one of his, I think Poor Folk was more of the well received, but The Double was kind of, had, people were kind of two minds of it, pun not intended, but yeah, it had a lot of, Gogolesque, like Nikolai Gogol, was a big influence in that, with like the nose, the nose having somebody, barber and barbershop, I believe, cutting off his nose accidentally and it falling in a soup. I think I reviewed it. If I didn't, I feel stupid because I feel like I definitely reviewed it. But yeah, the nose, he becomes this bureaucrat that kind of um, ends up being more successful than him, and he's like, what the hell, like this, the fact that, and that's kind of in essence is like what happens in The Double, but like I think in The Double is more rooted in realism, is something that almost sounds like it could actually happen, whereas the nose is magic realism, I think, uh, to put it lightly, because there's a lot of satire in it. It's like, like this is so ridiculous, but at the same time, it's something that is really not that far from the truth, because there's so many kind of low-ranking people, ever since Russia, opened up the kind of the gates, I suppose, of like abolished serfdom, I believe, around that time. And they were all kind of vying for and competing for different like positions and stuff. Like it was like it added more kind of social like unrest, because people were it was like a kind of status driven people, like were, like they were just like trying to outdo each other, and it was like one up, and in every way you look, it seemed like it was like some serf was like going to kind of seize the bit of land that you would already, like or just like have employed him on, just like not too far away. Well, maybe not employed, but you get the idea. So yeah, there is uh the Double is about a young man by the name of Goldykin, and he is kind of timid and kind of a milk toast, like he's and a brown noser, a bit of a like he's willing to do it pretty much not anything maybe, but like just he's very much like um not where you, like definitely you feel bad for him, definitely like a lot of Dostoevsky's characters, like they're not like even the nihilistic murderers, like like even like Svidrigilov, or um or Stopamich, I think, or certain pathetic people and demons, like even they, like you feel pity for, because Dostoevsky explains um offers a case for them, like he's like, hey, listen, hear these people out, like these opposing views that I obviously am trying to, in that way I think it's called Minipian satire. You're or Dostoevsky rather is trying to he's mostly about critiquing ideas rather than the people themselves. He's not like, hey, look at, like like look at this racial group of people, like look at these, like they're awful, like, or look at the nihilists, like they're awful, but he's like using like ideas, like he's saying like the idea of nihilism is prevalent and it's troubling, because there's it's seductive to young people who um like Raskolnikov, like that, who see a kind of schism in the social and cultural sphere. And that's kind of what goes on with this in The Double, is that Goldykin is tries inserting himself into these different events, and he fails miserably in a kind of Woody Allen comically way. He tries so hard to ingratiate himself, I think is the right word, because he's like, but nobody will have him. He's like, no, not gonna. And then one day, this guy who looks exactly like him, um, and it's like offsetting. He's like, am I losing my mind? Oh. He's like, all the same features, and he's not particularly handsome or whatever, because I think the novel makes that kind of clear from the start that, but at the same time, he's able to kind of charm and beguile his way through social circles, and they actually start out kind of being buddies at the beginning. I found this funny, and like, Goldie can actually, like, he calls him. I think they call one another like junior and senior to kind of differentiate. Um, and yeah, he has him over his house. I think the original Goldie, and he like they sit down and they have like a long kind of talk, and then I think the double is basically kind of right from the start, like even though they're on good terms at first at least, he's right from the start he's like just like very charming. He's just got all the social kind of uh, graces that Goldikin doesn't have. That he starts to envy him, and he's like, and then finally, like he starts when his double starts trying to insert himself in the very much same way he did. He's like accepted right away, and he's like easily able to both get like men wanted him, women want him, men want to be him, pretty much like that whole cliche. Like Goldiekin's junior, or rather, wait, is it senior or is it junior? It's like, okay, so his double, his clone, is basically taking over, and he starts to panic eventually. And at a party, I think there's one like he sees not only that, but but also his kind of love interest too. Like I think he is successful with her too, and he's like flirting, and she's like receiving him really like ogling over him, and then he's just like ends up like I think that's like the final straw, and he just kind of has a fit, and then he's taken off to an asylum by his doctor. I think Lutin Spitz, yeah, his doctor, and yeah, it's just a brutal ending. Kind of reminded me of the ending of The Idiot too. Spoiler alert, with the whole like going back into kind of insanity is a big theme of Dostoevsky as well. Like the idea that it's not too far from the I think like Ernest Becker, The Denial of Death, said that insanity is not too far from the artist's kind of strokes, I suppose. Like it's like the madhouse isn't too something like that. But I find that in this way it's kind of a banal kind of quotidian variety of insanity. It's not like Goldikin is out of that and then has any grand gleaning of like profundity or anything like that. But it's kind of like I feel bad all the same. It's like even though he didn't really exactly have all that much self-respect, and in the sense that he was just chasing kind of clout, to put it in a simply. But yeah, he just didn't have the wherewithal, and like the toll it took too, like on his mental health too, which wasn't even like a kind of thing like back then. It's like not really a lot of people paid much heed, like the whole psychological, the armchair analysis and all that. Like that really wasn't a thing till like the analytic school of psychology with Freud and Adler and Carl Jung. And I think at the time it was like to get kind of this look that's kind of a vivid reflection of what was going on and like a deep dive into the psyche. It took people like Dostoevsky or Tolstoy or Turgenev or maybe later on with Chekhov and Goncharov, and yeah, it took them to really kind of glean these insights and offer these things. And because like it was like that, or it was like just religion. It was like the orthodoxy of the church. It was like and they didn't really quite. And that's what I love about Dostoevsky too. Is like I might have said this before, but the fact that he was an Orthodox Christian, yes, but he never just like made up his mind dogmatically for you. Like he wasn't like, okay, well, I've decided that hell is real, heaven is real, God is real, he's he tries to argue the point from a point of view of like open-mindedness. Um, Even to the point where there's some people have accused some of his stuff as sounding Gnostic too. Like I'm not sure like how true that was, but like definitely with you get some sense of Gnosticism with the brothers Karamazov too, like with Ivan, the brother at the end, like arguing with the demon of this kind of the banal kind of demon that was like kind of like in that sense that it was like almost like a banality of evil too, because of how the demon was kind of just like this old, which I'm gonna review this like one of these days, was like more or less this kind of pathetic, tedious old man that wasn't really all that interesting at all. But yeah, but I think that's all I have for today. Dostoevsky's The Devil. Definitely recommend as always. And yeah, let me know what you think. I probably should point out at the end of every video, I do have a Ko-Fi. I think it's, yeah, Ko-Fi. Where you can drop by and give me, or I've long ago kind of stopped plugging my Patreon just because like I feel kind of like it's not like an out of ethical bounds. I don't really feel like it's that exactly, because then again, Ko-Fi, you can pretty much do the same thing, I guess. Ko-Fi is more like just like if you want to give somebody like a couple dollars or like $1. I'm fine with whatever, but like I really don't. I think I said this before. Like I've kind of honed this point in that I don't really like advertising myself or like and like even though like it could very well be certain thing like I do love doing these things, and I do so I feel like it's almost like wrong to ask for money for it in compensation, but at the same time it's more or less like if you feel compelled, drop by, give a few bucks or whatever. It's like it doesn't have to be, it's like a buy me a coffee thing, which I push before I get to, but one of these days. But yeah, if you feel like it, a few dollars does go a very long way. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.